Welcome to the Portland Real Estate Podcast, Oregon and Southwest Washington's #1 show for real estate news and information. Without further ado, here are your hosts and a couple of guys who, as busy realtors and successful brokerage owners, know a thing or two about real estate. Steve Nassar of Premier Property Group and Joe Festolo of Soldera Properties.
Hey, how are you? Welcome back, everybody, to the Portland Real Estate Podcast. We took a little break because of, life in real estate and busy times, but we're here back with a pretty fabulous show. It's very AI focused.
It's like everything else in our world these days, right?
Exactly. Why wouldn't it be the topic? We're just both thankful that we're not talking about the NAR buyer rep agreement thing that was an 18-month stint. So I'll talk about AI till I'm blue in the face.
Yeah. Good to be back, Joe. Good to be back. And I'll say we took a break. We always like to build up some great topics, and I think we've got some good stuff to chat about.
Yeah.
Here we
it's
are.
Fun. Nothing too heavy.
Yeah, no, nothing too heavy. We're in peak summer. I like to call it the dog days of summer, the really, really warm days. And I don't know who doesn't love those days here in our neck of the woods in the Northwest. And along with that, it's Street of Dreams season. So I know we were going to chat about that a little bit. It sounds like you have not had a chance to go yet, huh?
I'm guilty. My birthday was on the Realtor Day, which I like to go because I like to see all of, our friends, right? And you get to compare notes. It was my birthday, and then the VIP thing, I think I had a concert, and I still plan on going, but don't have the knowledge base. So what'd you think?
I think it's a good one. I think it's a really, really, really good one. I've been there twice, fortunately. And I went to the block party and I went to Realtor Day, and both were huge successes. And they very much reminded me of the good old days, right? I feel like there's been a lot of Street of Dreams recently, and no fault of anyone. I mean, land is hard to come by in big chunks like that, right? It takes a special, massive parcel to create a Street of Dreams that's viable and in the right area that, can support homes of that price. And this is one, and we've had recent years where they've been fragmented, and I hate that. I did you go last year to the block party that was at the winery at
I did.
Yeah.
That was great.
It's just different, Joe. And we've learned to appreciate that a little bit at our company at Premier Property Group. Like, if you just throw people in a space and say, go talk with everybody, it's just, you can do it a little bit, but it's not natural. Whereas if you're at the block party and it literally is a block and there's a bunch of homes and you're going to see that home and you just saw this one, and then you see somebody, you're like, hey, how's it going? Have you seen the homes? Oh, what did you think? It gives you something to talk about in addition to just normal chit chat, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was what happened, I felt, at the winery. It was fine. Don't get me wrong. And you and I can chit chat with the best of them. In fact, our 90-minute podcasts that are supposed to be 60 minutes are proof of that every time we have one of these. But it's just more comfortable. It's just more comfortable, and it's a fun space, and the houses are right there, and there's beer tents, and there's there's a familiarity to it too, like, because you and I, we've been doing this 20, 30 years, right? For a long time. So it takes you back to those former years, and that's what this one is. So there's a lot of houses. I forget the exact count. I want to say 7, 8, somewhere in there. They're
not all in one spot, though. Aren't there two? There's one or two in Lake Oswego, but most are up by Sears Farm and Oregon City.
You are correct about that, and I did not make it to those two. And to my point, it's just out of sight, out of mind, right? And I'm sure they're great houses. I just have not been there, so guilty as charged on that one. But I did go to the main site, and there they have 7 or 8. and they're all interesting. In fact, here's one thing that's cool, Joe. This year there's one. Remember in the old days, and this is one thing that reminded me of the old days. Remember the old days? There'd be a someone that took a big risk with a house, and it's really cutting edge and super unique, not just your traditional walk into the great room and everything.
Yeah.
Like every other house we've seen with a few
The
different twists.
the bathtub that fills up from the ceiling and the
This
wall.
house has that. It does. It has
Oh,
a
does
sink.
it?
It has a sink with the faucet is on the ceiling and you turn a knob and it shoots it down. It's a flat roofed house and I'm not here saying I love the house, I want to live in the house or it's great or not great, but somebody had the kahunas to take the risk, put
Yeah.
something out there that we don't see every day and really make it interesting and make it interesting for us. So I liked that was there. The other houses are all great. There's a lot to like with variations of the houses. I would probably say I don't think there's a head and shoulders standout house, one that's in every way better than the rest. There's a lot of homes that have a unique component that's really interesting, that's better than the rest in that regards. But and they're also, believe it or not, they're also kind of affordable. I know that sounds weird to say, but they're in the 2 million, 2.5 million range. And I sell homes in Oregon City in that range. And so these are homes that could appeal to a decent segment of the population. I
Yeah.
think I think they did a good job of that this year, is not getting crazy on their pricing. I think they were being smart about that. One of the agents in our company has one of the first ones there as her listing. It's
Uh-huh.
it's the one that was featured in the Oregonian as an all-female cast, right? The builder, architect, designer, listing agent, everybody. I think it's the first time there's been a female builder. By the way,
Great.
it was what the Oregonian said. So that was cool. It's also the 50-year anniversary, so that's good, right? To do it right on that big monumental anniversary was interesting. I definitely encourage you to go on a date night or some other off night and experience it. I don't think you'll regret it. And I've been hearing that from my friend who is the listing agent there, who's there all the time, by the way. She said they are getting record attendance this year, and it's getting a lot of press. I've seen a lot of the news stations out there, and so it's doing well this year, and that's good to see too.
Yeah, I'll definitely go. And I think last year it was interesting because there were like 24 homes and the spread between Randy's $6 million home, and then there were homes that were like high nines, I think. So you have like a $5 million spread, and there were like so many homes. I might be wrong, but like in the 20s, and they were all over
Interesting.
the place. And you got to drive and figure out where to park. And so
Ugh, yeah.
I only went to the Westland Lake Oswego area ones, and I didn't go see anything else. And this year, I definitely want to go see it. I like fewer homes that have a little elbow room. I mean, I know land is hard to come by, but if you have like 2 acre parcels and you got to build like a $4 to $5 million home there and maybe have six of them, um, I think that would be great, but the same builder is going to take down that land and the same builder is going to build all of them. So I think those days are over of having, a cool subdivision. Like the last one I really liked was the off of Rosemont, the
Yeah.
stone hinge or whatever they call it.
Well,
All of those houses were very, very well done.
yeah.
There's nothing in front of them, not to say that there won't be in the future, but beautiful
You're
home
talking the 2013, right? Like this was a while ago.
across from the winery.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Tucker built in that year. Do you
Yeah,
remember that? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. That was a good one. The Pete's Mountain one, where Tumwater is, was a good one. I heard, and I heard through the grapevine, this isn't 100% fact checked, but I think there's truth to it. I think there's another Pete's Mountain or Stafford one coming, maybe even
Ooh,
next year. And I think I heard that they're going to be high price points. I think actually,
your
I
next
lean.
house, Steve.
That would be a nice next
Earmark
house. But
one.
yeah, no, that's a nice area, and that's an area that can justify, high prices, $4 or $5 million homes. So
Yeah.
that would be a good one. But yeah, I've always said, I mean, since we've been doing this podcast 11, 12 years ago, when Tucker and I started it, we would always talk about the Street of Dreams, and I always said jokingly that it's the Super Bowl of our real estate world, right? It's like where the best builders show up, the best designers, the best stagers, the best architects, the best, the best of everything comes together, vendors, to showcase what they can do. It's a fun event, and it's right there in the peak of summer. So yeah, I encourage all of our listeners, get out there, support the HBA, support, the people that worked so hard on this all year. That's what will make it a viable, event for the future when when
And
when they do
you
well.
might find your forever home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, let's talk a little bit about you want to talk about the market or real producers
Uh, well,
first?
let's do both because I have a great quote from Chris Larson, who, if you don't know him, he's a local realtor, and he and his wife have Real Producers, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
a very realtor positive, realtor forward magazine. And Steve and I have both been on the cover of it. However, Steve has been on it twice, which is great. Congratulations, which I think was this month, wasn't it?
It
August?
was. Yeah. Yes, it was. I was honored to be invited to be back on it again. It'd been 6 years, so it'd been a little while.
Yeah,
Um, and it's a fun and I like it. I want to give a quick plug to Michelle, their photographer.
she's great.
She's done my headshots the last few times, and she's done a few other side projects for me, and she is fantastic. And it's kind of nice because when they invited me to be on the cover again, I was like, gosh, it has been 8 years since I did my last headshot. It kind of gave me a kick in the pants to get out there and do some headshots. I was
Yeah.
actually I'll poke fun of myself. I've been called catfishing by a couple listing clients recently. I showed up and they're like, "You're a little grayer than your photo." I was like, "Darn it, I'm that agent now, so I need a new
Yeah.
headshot."
Yeah.
So
Hey, this was my college graduation photo that I never changed.
yeah. So I got a new photo. I got a couple new photos taken, and I got to use those. Got to kind of dig through the archives of the story of my past and my business and where I've come from, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of a little memory to jog down memory lane, and it's fun to share, and maybe you add a little value and help some others out there. Um, it's cool. It's a cool
It's a
and
very positive production. I mean, not only a magazine, but they have amazing sponsors. It's very realtor positive. It's very networking. Like we get together. So, I mean, honestly, you've been on the cover twice. I've been on the cover once, but actually, we've been on the cover many times because every year they have that get together
that's right.
on
Yeah,
the stairs. I just
yeah,
recycled a bunch of those the other
yeah.
day. Um, but it is terrific, and there aren't too many people, doing things in person. It's all like virtual, and it's just great to once in a while network with all the people that are schlepping real estate because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
nobody in that group is hungry for their next deal because they haven't
Mm-hmm.
had one in a while.
Yeah,
It's the
and
best
they
of the best.
and she does do a great job. Tiffany Larson just absolutely knocks it out of the park. She takes it super seriously. She's a extrovert. She's very, personable. She's out there doing the events. She's out there reaching out to quality people, getting them to support in the events, to finding good people for content for the magazine. and
Yeah.
she's really pushed it forward really really far. And we are fortunate to have it in our industry because it hasn't always been around. Something like that has not always been around, and it does unify us. And like you said, it unifies the top agents, and brings them together, and shares our stories with others, and hopefully maybe even inspires some people, and
And
adds
those
value.
who
And
and
yeah,
those who don't know that this isn't a pay to play,
not at all.
magazine.
Not
It
at
like
all.
20 years ago they had this thing that you would pay $5,000 and they put you on the cover of a magazine. It's basically advertising. They
Yep.
put you on the cover of a magazine. They fill it with the ads and stuff, and then you have the centerfold. But you're paying for the whole thing. This is you have to be nominated for,
Were
and
you ever the centerfold, Joe?
yeah, but instead of pulling out 3 pages, you had to pull it out 5 pages.
Love
Um,
to see that.
so Tiffany, I mean, she's such a cheerleader, and her husband Chris, who I was just talking about, who is hilarious. They're both hilarious. I love them both. I was talking to Chris the other day about the market, and he has a listing very similar to one of my listings in price, and everything about it on paper is the same. And he said that he describes our market as like a multiple personality market. You list
Good.
something, you're like, wow, man, this is priced great. There's not a lot of competition. This thing's going to fly off the shelf. We're going to have multiple offers. You're on the market 85 days and you've had 2 price reductions and it's still sitting there, and you're shocked. And then you have other listings where it's on the market. The house needs lots of updates. You don't think the price is necessarily great, but you get like 3 offers and it sells for list or slightly there over. It's really weird. It's
It
it's
is.
it's
I
like
couldn't agree
slack
more.
tide. It's the tide's not coming in, it's not going out. It's just the water is really weird and it doesn't
Yeah.
know where it's going.
I could not agree more, Joe. I absolutely could not agree more. Because I would even say, just when I think the market couldn't get worse, then I have just a run of things going into escrow. And then just when I think, okay, this market's turning around, then it gets really bad again. And
Hmm.
it's a market of fits and starts, and it's a market of what you just said, like multiple personalities. I we had a little meeting in our office here yesterday, just kind of like our Tuesday mastermind of a lot of our agents, and I kind of did a market update, and I was pretty transparent with everybody, and I'll share some of what I said now. I was like, guys, in my 15 years now in doing this, selling homes, I just haven't had as many cranky sellers as I have right now. I mean, you can look when you have a listing, and you could be doing everything right. Not saying that we always are doing everything right, but we try, right? We've got good systems and good team members and good marketing. But you could be doing everything right. And if the house isn't selling, a seller has really two choices. They can look internally at themselves, their house, and their price, or they can start throwing daggers at you, the agent, right?
Right.
Now, uh, so, and there's a mixed bag of them out there, but it is easy for them to throw daggers at their agent, and sometimes a lot of sellers, that's the path they want to go, right? Like get cranky with the agent, and we just have a lot of that right now, and it's a grind. It's tough. It's tough, right? You and it's also a reminder. I said to the agents in the room, I said it's a good reminder to do everything right, because if you are visibly dropping balls, whether that's saying, "Oh, I'm going to do an open house on Saturday," and you show up late or whatever, stuff, the bad stuff that irks sellers. If you're doing that, you're really in trouble with your sellers, right? Because they're really going to point to those things. So it's a challenging market. A lot of times you know, I'll talk to industry people and they're like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Well, we're doing okay. It's, we're having a decent year." And they're like, and they always assume because I've got a big team and we do big numbers that everything's puppies and rainbows. And I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna do well over 100 million, but do you know how many houses didn't sell? Do you know
Yeah.
how many grueling conversations I had to have with the seller to drop their price to finally get that one deal closed?" I mean, it's tough. It's tough out there, and it doesn't seem to be, I'm not seeing anything on the horizon that's pointing to getting way better anytime soon. There was an interesting stat that I heard from a recent, I think it was last week, there was a Tom Ferry event down in California, if I'm not mistaken. And
Hmm.
one of the guys that was there shared with me that they talked about how the last 4 years there have been fewer transactions nationally than there ever has been in 4 years. So and as realtors, that's how we make our money. When there's a transaction, we get a piece of it, right? Same with
Right.
mortgage lenders, same with escrow and title. So the entire industry, right? So we're in a
2003 and 2004 were dogs. We're coming off of like inflated prices, people getting, 150, 200 over list, 12
You mean
offers.
2023 and 2024?
2020 to 2022, the COVID
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
we went nuclear. 2023, 24, we had a big correction. Not a lot of real estate, and 80% of the lenders, got out of the business. We lost a bunch of realtors. I think that's somewhat good, thinning the herd and upping the professionalism a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's statistically, there's 10% of us that sell 90% of all of the homes out there. And that's what's great about going to the Street of Dreams. And you and your team sell more than I do, but I've been doing it longer than you have. So we probably, I don't know, have you closed over 1,000 homes yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay. So
I recently went over a billion. In the last couple years, I've gone over a billion in career sales. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So, and then there's probably the same old song and dance. Like, how many times have you had a deal with one particular broker? It's like, oh, I have another deal, and it's this guy again. Like, have you ever had like deals with? There's the same like 300 or same 500 people that you seem to do deals with in repeat deals and repeat deals, and these are the people you run into. I think what's going on with our market, and there's millions of excuses. The excuses are, gee, kids go back to school in a week or two, and this is everyone's last hurrah to have a vacation before school starts, and they go to the beach or Sun River, and then you got to get the kids a haircut and clothes, and there's all this convenient excuses about why things aren't moving. But what I've experienced is um, 1.25 million on up. Come on in, the water's warm. It's great. But anything close to a big benchmark, if you're like 1,050,000, the market is kind of wanting to wait to see it start with a nine.
Mm-hmm.
And the buyers really don't have a lot of uh, patience for a home that needs a lot of work. Even if it's priced correctly, they would rather it just be done. And a lot of our transactions have been cash. I don't do a lot of, I have done, bank loans, but so many more cash deals than ever. And I think there's lots of reasons for people overpricing. In the past, we had the Russia, Ukraine, we had the Iran thing. Those are big, like, stops to our market when something big's going down. But aside from that, a lot of people look at the comps through history, and then that's how they develop their pricing. But I don't know that they analyze it as good as they should. They look at what has sold, but they're not really screening it for, well, 6 months ago, the market was significantly different than it is now. So I need to adjust. But that brings you to today. You also have to project what's going on in the next 3 to 6 months, right?
Hmm.
Are we trending up? We trending down? We staying the same? Beyond all of the analysis, sometimes when you're competing for a listing, you go up and, gee, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, your house is worth X. But then the other one or two brokers they're interviewing is like, gee, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can get you X plus $50,000. Well, to a seller who doesn't know better, that's like, gosh, if he can get us 50 grand more, that covers all the commission and we still net more than what Joe says. But
Hmm.
gravity isn't different for people, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
if market value is a finite number, the highest obtainable price you can get within a reasonable amount of time. This guy over here, his market value can't be higher. Of course, there's better marketing and things like that. So
Hmm.
that comes into effect, but market value is market value. And if the guy comes in to buy the listing at, let's start 50 grand or 100 grand higher, uh, the seller just needs to kind of step out of the vacuum for a moment and think that's not going to happen. The guy wants the listing. He's going to beat me up in a month for a reduction, beat me up in 2 months for another big reduction. And then we're where Joe says we should be. And then we're going to get less than that because we've been on the market for 5 months. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, I do think it's still a good market for well-priced homes where you don't have lots of competition.
Yeah. I was talking to someone else the other day, and they were asking me how the market is, and I was telling them I was telling them a lot of stats that apply nationally, right? Like people have their 3% mortgages and they're handcuffed to them, and they're only moving if they really have a dire situation or job change or something massive. I think the saying is that it's the D's, right? Diapers, divorce, death. There's a few others. But that's nationally, right? I said, and we've got our own unique situation here in Portland, right? Especially when you get into the higher end. There's definitely, and especially in Multnomah County, I'm seeing houses like in Forest Heights, Multnomah County, that are turning at numbers akin to what they sold for 20 years ago or 15 years ago. I mean, there's
Mhm.
very little appreciation, very little. Now, the good news is they do eventually sell. It's not, it's not a game of musical chairs with no one to sit on the chairs. There are people buying those homes, but you got to make the prices super compelling. You almost have to price them under the comps. And it's just soft. It's just soft. And while that's probably ground zero for where this for the higher end being soft, it's still similar in Clackamas and Washington County. I mean, there's just a lot of money moving out of the area and out of the taxes and out of
True.
and the number replacing them is not as big. So that creates the softness in pricing. So my point to that person was, yeah, there's already the whammy of what's happening nationally, but we've got like a little, secondary component to that. Especially in our high end. That's just adding to it. So it's a challenging time. And it is interesting because it wasn't like this the first quarter of this year. We had just a rip roaring first quarter the beginning of this
Until the
year.
Iran
Yeah,
deal.
I mean, yeah, we were in the high 5%, like 599, and I think we all thought that the worst was behind us and we were going to ease down. You know, the new Fed chair was slated to start, which he has now started, but he's limited on what he can do without, going off the rails because of inflation data and oil prices and all sorts of other macroeconomic issues. So yeah, it's uh it's interesting. It's tough out there. But there it is. Yeah. You know who's
Still a great market and a great profession for those who are bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, not afraid of learning, not afraid of working, and move forward with intention. I mean,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's a fabulous profession, and there's a lot of brokers making a lot of money in all markets, but they're the minority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we said that, and that is the positive. So, um, during COVID, nationally there was around 6 million units that sold across the country, right? We've been and that was elevated, right? I would guess average is somewhere around 5 million, give or take, in a normal market, maybe like an 18, 17, 19. We've been for the last 4 years, we've been barely 4 million, right? And that's why, we've just had less units moving. And this year, the first quarter, I think we all thought, okay, this is where we kind of start to come out of this, but I don't know that that's the case. I think Lawrence Yun and NAR now are reforecasting that we're probably still slogging along the bottom with the number of units. It's another year of about a lot like last year, units sold. And that's what we need to change is we need to start to see more units across the country.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, if you're going to buy or sell, I think a lot of people kind of did it during the peak. And if it used to be 4.5 years people stay in a house, but it seems to be it's more
It's
like 6 or 7 years people stay
10
in
years.
a house.
10 years,
And if
Joe. I think
everyone just did it, they don't have a need. Like if you see someone on a car lot and the salesman comes running out, he's like, "Hey, can I help you?" And they're like, "Oh no, we're just looking." Well, Steve, how many times have you been to a car lot when you're not looking to buy a car? Like, have
yeah.
you ever purchased a car and then the next day go to a car lot? No, it absolutely doesn't happen. So
Uh-huh.
if they don't have a need, they don't have a need. But there's plenty of real estate out there to be sold, plenty of people that have a need to sell, plenty of people that need to buy. And yeah, I forgot all the D's, but basically, death, divorce,
Diapers.
getting laid off, or having babies, getting promoted or transferred, getting married,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
figure out what starts with a D for all those categories. And there's your six D's. All right, let's dig into AI stuff. This is an AI centric podcast, which is great because it keeps it light. And since it's fairly new territory, uh, we'll kind of figure out the right answers together.
Uh-huh. So
Um,
go ahead and tee off the first one, Joe, and I'll take the second one.
Aaron Middleton posted an infographic that says, if I see, quote, nestled again in a listing write up, I'll know it's AI. And this went to like, 2.2 thousand people. And we had 49 comments and lots of emojis and reactions. And uh, it's interesting. People are getting lazy and they're using AI and they're like, hey, write remarks for my new listing. And maybe they feed it some things about the house. And then I don't know if they're not proofreading it, but they just like copy and paste it into remarks. And then it starts out like, nestled into the green forest in a park-like setting. This
Mm-hmm.
home boasts,
Mm-hmm.
a plethora of amenities perched on the
Perched.
hill. It's
Perched.
just like, oh my God, this isn't The Hobbit. I mean, this isn't a fairy tale book. This is like remarks.
Yep. Yep. I
And
think
they
a
and
good I think a good rule of thumb is you should never let the AI start the process. It should end the process. In other words, you should write something that you then put into AI to clean it up and
Yeah.
improve it. You should not go the other way and have the AI start the something and then you clean that up. And I think a lot of people, I think there's a big difference between the two because the first sounds like you, but is pretty and clean. The other sounds like AI, and
Yeah.
maybe you get some of your flavor in it, but probably not much.
So with AI, unless you're sitting there typing it all, you're clicking the little microphone button and you're dictating, you're giving audio instructions. You should use more time explaining to AI how you want it to sound and what exactly you're looking for and as many details as you can give. Hey, these are remarks for a new real estate listing. Don't specifically use the word nestled and boasts and plethora. And I want it to be informative and light. And please describe the house and not the person living in the house. And keep it, under 1,000 characters with spaces and punctuation included. And don't use big words. And you might have to
And
do it
keep
three
it
or four
short.
times.
Keep it short. I
Keep it
hate
short.
I hate that the MLS. Do you remember how, oh, gosh, when I first got in the business, Joe, we all played the game where we would try to get the description in there and it was too many words. So then we'd start taking out some spaces
Yeah.
and like we'd have period, then the next word starts without a space. And we were trying to just get it all in there.
Yeah.
But those descriptions were short. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't have made it a little bit longer than that, but now you get these gigantic paragraphs. And for those of you that are listening to the podcast and not watching me on video, I'm holding my fingers very far apart as I'm describing how big these paragraph descriptions are. And I, it, it's just too much and it's a lot to read. And I think too much ends up not getting read at all by a lot of people. I know there's times when I'm at appointments and I'm looking at comps with my seller and I'm like, oh, I want to see if this house had an ADU. It looks like in the photos they did. And I'll just look at this behemoth of a paragraph and I'm like, gosh, I mean, this is going to be a 7-minute process to scan that for ADU. But
You
anyway,
don't have to use 2,000 characters. We now can have
no.
2,000 characters. Before it was like way back when it was like 400 characters or 500, not near enough. And yeah, instead of spelling out and A and D, you would use the little and symbol.
Yep, yep.
You save 2 letters that way. Um, just because you have 2,000 characters, please don't use them all. Just because you go to all you can eat buffet doesn't, they don't expect you to eat the whole buffet. So just, it,
Good analogy.
talk
Good
about
analogy.
what's important, forget about the rest. Everybody glazes over the BS like, hey, wood burning fireplace, perfect for, cozy gatherings while watching TV. AI's adding all this extra stuff. I think they just need to know there's a wood burning fireplace.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah.
figure out the rest, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. This one was really interesting. And it's something I have not given a lot of thought to, but I probably should have. So I'm glad it's here. I'm glad we're going to talk about it. And this might be one of those rare moments on this podcast where I don't know that I have a definitive opinion. Meaning like I might be waffling on this one. It was Scott Dallinger's post. I hope I'm saying his last name right. It was August 3rd. And it's about AI. And he
Mm-hmm.
says, Masters, is it legal to post AI generated photos of houses with non-existent improvements? I am a buyer searching through listings and I'll see sometimes AI photos showing improvements that weren't real. And I think it's BS. I understand virtual staging, but showing me photos of the house as it doesn't actually exist is confusing, manipulative, deceptive, waste my time, and I'm wondering if it's illegal. And then he has a photo of a house and it does show the house as it exists. I'm guessing they're two separate photos or something. As it exists in its current form, and then there's a secondary photo with a very much improved house, including the yard and beyond.
Run through AI. It was
Run
run
through.
through AI,
Yep.
and they said, "Hey, give us potential of what this house could be." And they did the big pillars and the wood beams and landscaping and a new front facade, new windows, and it's showing you what this house could be with
Nice garage door, new
little
paint.
effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, Joe, does RMLS allow this? Do you know?
Um,
I
I
got the
don't know.
I think I got the sense it does not, but I could be wrong. Because the first comment says, per RMLS rules, RMLS has long required listings be accurately represent the property and prohibits deceptive or misleading advertising. Uh, let's see. Hang on. RMLS requires anything like staging or what is describing to be highly visible, labeled as virtually staged. I know that. We know virtual staging is allowed. Um, this because I think in reading these comments, this was a Central Oregon house. I think it was
Oh,
it was in Bend, and I think theirs allows it.
I was, well, while you're reading these things, I was on a seminar the other day about AI and lawyers and the law. And guess what? There's going to be a ton of lawsuits about AI. First of all, you type something into AI and it goes to the internet and it kind of crowdsources all the information on the internet and comes back with your answer. And that helps you with getting a more complete source of information. But if you're typing in confidential stuff like your seller's name and prices and things like that, that is an open source. And so you do not want to be putting in specific names and addresses. And you got to be very, very careful about what you put in AI because we have a confidentiality. And if you're asking AI to do something which is not a confidential platform, then you could very well be sued. I could tell you what, if you're going to run this through I would have virtually enhanced all over that
Yeah,
photo. There's
everybody
no
agrees
way
on
you would
that.
be able to miss
Yeah,
it. You would
yeah,
say, projection, this is virtually enhanced, showing you what it could be with, little effort. I would make sure it is abundantly clear because if it isn't, you're going to have one person that's going to buy it and then sue you and say, well,
yeah.
hey, what about this photo?
And the general consensus was that, Joe, everybody agreed that it's got to be very, very obvious. And in this example, that was the case. They did have there, and somebody zoomed in on it, that it said AI enhanced on that photo. Um, Again, as I said at the outset, I don't know that I have a final opinion on this. I can see some value in it, but it is a dangerous, slippery slope for sure. Even if you do disclose it, because we could find ourselves in a world where there's more photos showing what the house could look like than what it does look like, and I don't think we want to be in that world, right?
We don't. But the other thing we also know is some buyers don't have vision and they don't know what they want. And the people looking for houses with you want the AI enhanced house down below, but the only thing on the market is what you see up above the house as it is today. I mean, look, people virtually and physically stage homes to make people have vision. Hey, this is a large room. Where would you put your furniture? Well, guess what? We're going to show you. And you call the stagers and they bring all the stuff in and they stage the room, or you do it digitally and you virtually stage it and it defines the room. It's all for that vision. So personally, I like it. I think it should be abundantly even more clear. If you click on the photo, it does say AI enhanced at the bottom, but I would brand something across the middle of it and let them know, look, this is no different than the person selling a 1 acre lot for $600,000. But instead of going in RMLS at a $600,000 lot, they're going in with a $3.5 million proposed house, right? And the house in the picture isn't the house you have to build, but people are looking in that price range. They want to search and see, oh, proposed, and it's just some kind of mass cord plan. But then you talk with the builder, and it's like, look, we can do anything we want. We have enough
Yeah.
setbacks here. You could build whatever you want. This is just an idea. I kind of like the idea because a lot of people would buy the enhanced home below, but don't have the vision to know that what you see could be that.
Do you know, I like what you brought. I like that you brought that up, Joe. And that was listed here in the comments. There is a difference, though. Here's the difference. In the example you just gave of the lot that has a proposed house,
Uh
they
huh.
they gave the final sales price. They're not giving the cost to renovate this house here.
True.
So nobody knows what it costs to take the house that it really is and make it look like that one. And I think that's the slippery slope. So you're looking and you're like, oh, that's awesome. Well, any house can look awesome with a big chunk of money. What is that chunk of money, right? I do think this is different than virtual staging. And virtual staging, you're not changing the asset that's being transferred and sold. You're changing the presentation of that asset, but you're not painting walls, you're not putting facades and bricks on it and not disclosing what those costs are or how you go about those or how long
True.
they take. Um Again, I it's going to be interesting to see. I will have to assume in the coming years, NAR is going to have to take a stance on this, and the MLSs, and it's probably going to be different than what we're being told and what's happening today, because if this starts to run away, I think it could get crazy. I think it could get crazy. I think there could be 48 photos in the MLS we use, and
Yeah.
30 of them
44
are
of them are AI. You
yeah.
show up and there's just a plain lot with junk on it and
I
smoke
know.
coming off of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I
I think
agree. I do like giving people vision who don't normally have vision. Not everybody has the designer gift, and so I
I
do
do
like
too.
that.
I do
But
too. I
I
think
think it
there's
should
value
be
to that.
very clear, and I think what you do in your listing should be a minimum, no more than 5 photos, 5 out of 48 to give an idea. I think is probably around the max you should do.
That would be one good rule is to limit it, dramatically limit it. Like you just said, that would be it. If it, so that it doesn't get crazy in the quantity of them.
And,
Um,
there's something for when they get there, you want them to look at it and not be disappointed. Like some of the photographers I've had in the past, they take a picture of someone's living room and it looks like it could be the size of a pickleball court. And it's because of a fisheye lens. And then they go there and they're like, oh gosh, this looks way smaller than it looked online. And I kind of want people to go and expect kind of what they see online. It's like I want the pictures to look as good as possible, but let's not exaggerate the view. Let's not exaggerate the size of the room. They're going to look at it in person, and I don't want it to be kind of a big disappointing letdown. And I think you can go a little too crazy with what the house could be with
I agree.
these AI enhancements.
Yeah, pay attention to this subject. This is a big subject that's new, and it's going to be interesting what happens with it over the years. Let's jump to staging. That's our next topic. You posted this one, Joe. Why don't you tee it off? I was actually, I have to, I have to tell you, Joe, 99% of the time, you and I agree on stuff. I disagree with you on this one.
Yeah.
You're a virtual staging guy. I did not know that about you.
Well, it's there's a little backstory,
Go
but
ahead.
I'll read it just
Read
because
what you posted
I
and
want
then
to
share
read what
your
I
thoughts.
posted
Yeah.
and not ad lib. I'll just read what I
Okay.
posted. It says staging versus virtual staging, what works best? There are benefits and drawbacks to both, and much of the debate seems to come down to cost, convenience, and the buyer's experience. Does physical staging make a home feel warmer and show better when buyers walk through the door? Is the money spent worth the return, or is virtual staging a more efficient way to attract attention online while allowing the home to feel larger and more open when buyers arrive and see it vacant? What are the pros and cons on each? Please share your thoughts. And wow, was I the black sheep on this one? Um, Everybody kind of loves actual staging, where they bring in the furniture. And I'll be the first to admit, look, you walk into new construction, they have really cool furniture. Maybe it's like smaller versions of furniture. So the nook looks bigger and the living room looks bigger. It does look great. But as realtors, oftentimes it might take many months to get the seller ready to get photography and then to get on the market. And lots of times they just kind of want to get on the market. And so some of these staging companies, depending on the overall value of the home and size, you can be paying 2,500 a month, 5 grand a month, 7,500 a month.
I don't think it would be that much a month. That sounds very, very high
Well,
monthly.
it depends on
But
how many rooms
the
you,
upfront, yeah, the
yeah,
upfront.
how many you rooms you stage. Sometimes there's a minimum amount of time you have it staged. There's also rules whether someone could be living there while it's staged. A lot of them don't have the insurance for someone to be sitting on the staged couch. It's got to be completely vacant. There's all this stuff. Anyway, um, I think when you take a vacant house and there's rooms there that you can define with staging, virtually staging it, you have an infinite number of different styles of furniture. So if it's a 50s home, you could do mid-century modern type stuff. If it's a newer home, you can do, your crate and barrel and pottery barn, all that stuff. You can pick it and you can design it until you find something that looks warm and inviting and comfortable. And there's not the seller moving completely out of their house to call a staging company to move all the stuff completely back into the house. And I think for just efficiency and wanting to get on the road, I prefer the digital staging, but everybody else prefers the actual physical staging. And I take it that the sellers are the ones paying for that, not the realtor, I'm suspecting.
Usually, I think that's how it goes. Yeah. I very much prefer real physical staging. Let's be clear. This year, 80% of my business is going to be listings, right? Go back
Mm-hmm.
and real producers talked about this, right? If you go back 9 years ago, 8 years ago, I was heavy buyers, and I've transitioned to heavy listings and a lot more higher end. One of the most important tasks a seller entrusts us to do when hiring us as their listing agent is to oversee and quarterback the presentation of the house, which is hugely important. It's important. It's one of the pillars of what we do as a listing agent. It's important for the buyer when they get to the house. And that's where I think virtual staging lacks, right? Obviously,
Yes, I
it's not
agree.
there when they get to the house. But it's also important for the marketing that we put out, the media that we put out everywhere in the universe to hopefully get them to the house. Um, and the staging is such an important component to this that in full disclosure, I actually invested in a staging company. I don't even know if you know this, Joe, about year and a half, 2 years ago, I became an investor in a company which I rebranded as I oversaw the rebranding of it as White Glove Home Staging and Improvements. And
Hmm.
I did that because it's just such an important part of what we do. And I was seeing challenges in with other staging companies who were not doing stuff that I thought was important. For example, outdoor furniture. I had a beautiful listing on in Forest Heights with this amazing deck with gorgeous, gorgeous views a few years back. And I begged a well-known staging company here in town to put some outdoor furniture out there, like help me showcase what this deck can look like. And it was like May, it was heading into summertime, and they him hawed, and I pleaded and I charmed, and I never got the outdoor furniture. They said, "Oh, we just don't do that." And so I had that listing for quite a while after that, and every time I'd go there to show it or see that deck in the photos, I was so disappointed in it. So that there were little gaps like that I saw. Also owner occupied. I would get a listing that was owner occupied, and I'd be touring the house, and they'd have great stuff everywhere, but then I'd notice one room that just had a bad dining room table or something that just didn't work. And at the time, I would call my staging companies and I'd say, "Hey, could you just bring a dining room table? What would that look like?" And no one wanted that small piecemeal stuff.
Yeah.
So those are things that with ownership and white glove home staging improvements, we've leaned into, like those gaps, those areas that were not being addressed by the market out there. I think it's hugely important. Staging is hugely important, better over virtual staging because it's there, it's real in the house. Statistics show that all else being equal, if a buyer goes into two houses that they like, maybe like enough to they want to write an offer. If one is vacant, and by the way, when you virtually stage a house, it's going to be vacant, right? When you get there,
Right.
it's going to be vacant.
Yep.
They will spend less time there to the tune of a fifth of the amount of time, as opposed to someone that goes into a house that they like and it's furnished. And that's not mind blowing. I mean, think about it. The house that's furnished, they can sit down, they can talk to their agent, they can visualize themselves, they can see the spaces. There's more to take in. Um, so I mean, the stats show that if a buyer goes into a vacant house that they like and that maybe want to write an offer on, maybe they spend 20 minutes there on average. Whereas if it's a staged house, they might spend an hour there. They might sit down and start talking about the offer that they want to write and the terms and the conditions of it. So staging is just, I think it creates emotion when they're in the house versus just a logical transaction, right? And sellers win as emotions are flying high. If a buyer's in a house and they start to emotionally connect to it and they really want it, that's when they're going to pay top dollar. If they go into a house and it's empty, it's cold, it's harder to visualize, then it becomes about logic. And logic is like, hey, what is this house? How many square foot is this house? That one across the street was this many square feet. Okay, I'll offer this. That's a logical offer versus, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Realtor, I love this house. Let's figure out how to get this house. Staging's powerful stuff. It's one of the most powerful things we do. And I'll leave it with this last thing. The other most powerful thing that we do as a listing agent, in my opinion, is the media that we create of a house, right? The photo quality, the video quality, the content, the print pieces, the signage, everything we do, that's the marketing, right? But if the presentation of the house isn't top notch, isn't its best, you could bring the best photographer in the world to a house that's disheveled and has socks and this here and clutter and this and that.
Yeah.
What difference does it make? What do they do? Right? You may as well have brought us a mediocre photographer.
You
So,
catfished them.
so presentation of what we do to a listing is the pillar. It's the most important thing we do, and hence why I wanted to, have an influence in that process with a venture that I took on here recently in
Well,
the
that's
last.
interesting. And look, I am at the far minority of digital state.
Come
Like,
come to
I,
the come to the bright side, Joe.
yeah.
Call me I'll hook you up. We'll start staging your houses. We'll show you the water's warm. It's very nice over here.
I'm not totally against it if, the seller, if A, number one, we have the time, and B, the seller is open to it. I'm not against it. But so many times getting the listing as a photo finish, the seller gets out, we get, photography and we want to go live on that Friday morning. And we don't have time to wait for a staging company and all that stuff. But I'm
That's
not
that.
fully against it. I just like that you can take a couple rooms, define them, post it as, virtually staged. And I get it. Our job is to get them there, and then they have to fall in love with it while they're there.
Can I give you a great idea?
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to what you're saying, and I think there's a healthy hybrid model. Okay. Have a staging company stage the main living areas and
Uh-huh.
then virtually stage the secondary areas, the secondary bedrooms, maybe a bonus room. Do those virtual staging. And here's another cool idea that we've implemented a few times. And I actually want to do more of this because it's something that I'm toying with and I like. Have an easel in those rooms with a blown up photo of it being virtually staged
Right. I've seen that.
in the not all the house, in those secondary rooms. So
Yeah.
now you've got a house that someone comes into. The main areas are physically staged so they can sit, they can see them. They're the important spaces. But then you've in the secondary spaces, you have an easel there with a blown up image of the virtual staging. And online you have the virtual staging. And so it saves you some costs there, but it also covers the entire house, and it kind of is a hybrid model. And back to some of your other points, Joe. I Yes, you are correct. There was a lot of confusing components to staging and their pricing. And one thing I sat down with the key players at White Glove, and we said, let's make this simple. Let's come up with a plan where they can pay out of escrow. Let's come up with the first 60 days are covered with the initial cost, and other ways to just keep those costs in line and make it a viable option because it is just so important to what we do. So good.
Hmm.
Let's move on from that one.
Okay.
You broke the rules, bot. Um, So I've noticed this too. I do have frustrations with some of this stuff. Armless has seriously gone too far. This was by Heidi Torko, August 12th. Armless has seriously gone too far. My floor plan is restricted due to its scanning and finding the word bonus. Restricted because it thinks it's related to a concession. So Armless and he showed a screenshot of that. And then there's a lot of people kind of chatting about various things. We um Basically Armless has AI that's scanning the entire system looking for key things, problematic
Buzzwords.
words that and then it flags them. Um I and there's a lot of comments about this, and there's they were saying, well, you just need to clear that up with Armless. And the one that bugs me the most, and I think we've talked about it on here, Joe, and I just wish it wasn't like this. I hate that you can't show, like, I have a listing right now that's in Mountain Park. It's 2 minutes from New Seasons, Mountain Park in
Yeah.
Lake Oswego. And it bugs me that you can't show a drone shot and show the house and then just say New Seasons. You have to
Yeah.
kind of play this cryptic game of nearby shopping, and then you have to blur out the word New Seasons. And I just and the what Armless will let you do it for a park, right? You can do it
As
for
long as there's no people in it.
correct. Yeah, you can't have people like you could put Waluga Park. I just don't understand it. Like, why do they?
Oh, you're talking about the drone label. Like
Yeah,
here's Beluga, here's
showing
news.
Waluga
Okay.
Park, but you can't say New Seasons. And I'm trying to think through their vantage point why that's problematic, and I just don't see it. Like the same MLS lets a commercial guy sell a commercial building that shows a name on it. What is the problem here? Like, and they, and is it because they say, oh, everybody's welcome to Walogu Park, but not everyone's welcome to New Seasons? Well, I've never seen New Seasons not allow someone. I just don't know the rationale behind that. It doesn't seem helpful. And
It's inconsistent. So the bot is looking for buzzwords. Like if you say walking, the word walking is going to get flagged because you can't say walking distance to the bus line or to the store because some people can't walk, right? But if you say, hey, beautiful park with walking paths, the word walking is going to get flagged. Um, Anything that you say, hey, it's a mature neighborhood or mature trees, because you put the word mature, that's going to get flagged. You can't have words on your photos. And I have a listing part of a HOA. There's a pool, and I don't like the stock photos. I like my photographer to take their own photos. You couldn't because you can't have people in it, and there were people outside enjoying the pool, and you can't have people or kids in your park photos or pool photos or tennis. If it's anything somewhat close up, they get flagged. They automatically remove it. They will remove your virtual tours. They just flat out delete it. So I think the bots are a little ratcheted up too much. And I think that flags them. And then you have the people at rules at RMLS that make the actual decision. But I'm sure New Seasons isn't their new marketing thing isn't to be in everyone's listings. you know,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's it's not marketing. It's just good to know how far are you away from shopping? How far are you
uh-huh,
away from the kids' high school? You
yeah,
know.
yep. There's another one. Okay, moving on. We got two more. Do better. Sandy Reeser. On July 23rd, I recently wrapped up a transaction where I represented the buyer and the seller was a licensed realtor, duly disclosed to my clients, of course. It is one thing for our buyers to experience unprofessional or difficult behavior from mainstream sellers, but experiencing it from a fellow licensee who is vague, rude, and refuses to sign necessary addenda because they don't think it's important. That makes us all look bad. I suspect the poor listing agent was being bullied by their own client, but that's a story for another day. Neither the listing agent nor the seller are in this group, which honestly explains a lot. So I just wanted to drop this reminder here for all of us. When we are selling our own properties, we are also representing the entire industry. Let's all do better. Good point there. Good point.
Hey, kudos to Masters in Real Estate Group that, just like we're talking about real producers, I believe the best of the best are in this group. And those who aren't in the group aren't
Yeah.
working at a high level or they didn't pay attention to the rules and they got bounced out of here. So,
Yeah.
uh,
No, no. I mean, what she's saying, and it makes perfect sense to me, is we all have tough sellers. I think I told you I have the record number of them right now, right? Uh, and sometimes when I'm doing a deal with Joe, I gotta call him and go, "Hey, this isn't coming from me. I've got a little, I've got a." We've actually had this, Joe. Do you remember our first
we've
deal?
had a couple
Dude,
deals.
do you remember
Yeah.
our first deal? It was like 2013. It was a
Yeah.
long time ago. It was out in Scappoose or so, I think, right?
Yeah.
And and sometimes those tough sellers, they don't start out that way until you get into the nitty-gritty of the negotiations and the inspections. She turned into a doozy.
Yeah.
I had to tell you, hey, Joe, I've got a doozy here. And there's a right way to say it. You don't throw your sellers under the bus, but you kind of cryptically make your co-op agent aware that
Yeah.
this is
Don't shoot
not
the
me.
messenger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the messenger. I'm the messenger, and that's a good way to say it, by the way. Um, but
We
if
also we
you,
had one at the mountain too, and we had one in West Lynn, and the West Lynn one was tricky with some red tape of the
yeah,
appraiser and stuff. You got
yeah,
to have that communication, and sometimes you have to have a little sidebar, not for everybody's ears, but it's kind of like, hey, how are we going to make this work for the benefit of everybody?
and
And here's what we're
yeah,
facing.
and what Sandy's saying here is okay on those deals. We're saying, hey, I'm just the messenger. This is the seller's wish. I know this is not going to feel good. It's not comfortable. This is not a good experience. Bear with me. Let's get through this. But if the seller is the agent, it does give a black eye to the industry. It now Sandy's going to her buyers and going, "Hey, this seller who's also the agent, is not a good not a good person to transact with, and that hurts all of us, and it hurts the perception of the industry. So that's a fair warning.
I think we can all do better. And look, we don't all share the same styles. I like to do lots of communication, let people know what's about to happen while it's happening and what just happened after it's done. I like to be completely transparent and I like to be efficient. When we draft an addendum, if we got to do a rent back, if we got to, change a closing date, if we're including personal, I mean, I like to be efficient. And some people are like, just send it to me. Let's not talk so much. Just send me your addendum. And I think you're going to spend more time rewriting other addendums rather than doing it right the first time. And I get it. Not everyone's your style or my style, but we should at least give each other respect and try and play nice in the sandbox until we get to closing.
Yep. Yep. There's one more, Joe. Why don't you tee it off? You see it there? Zillow in history.
Oh, yeah. So, as portals changing the way buyers think about listing, well, this is long, but so all the secondary third party websites, your Zillow and your Realtor.com and your Trulia and Estately, they are now posting everything. Hey, the seller tried to rent it for 6 months a year and a half ago. Hey, they were on the market a year ago, starting a year ago, and they reduced 3 times. And there's so much information out there in history that now buyers are looking at a house and it's like, you've only been here 3 years and now you're trying to sell. And I'm looking at the pictures from 3 years ago and I'm looking at the new listing pictures and you haven't done anything. Like none of these new windows, new roof, new pavement, new whatever it is, you bought it that way, but you're using the same verbiage when you bought it, newer windows, newer roof, and then you're asking substantially more, but you didn't do anything but just live there for 3 years. So I think the point here is your history is public, your history matters, and realtors, I believe, need to do a better job convincing their sellers to start off closer than they have been because of all this information. They know when you try and rent it, they know when you bought it, they know what you've done to it since you've been there. And with this knowledge, people are they're smart about it. They're like, I don't think this appreciated 100 grand in 3 years, and they're making an offer that they think is realistic. And I think there's a lot of validity to it.
Yeah. Do you know that interesting story. I sold a house in Oregon City about a year ago. And when I took the listing, they had listed it in like 2019 for a number that it did not sell for. Okay. And then they interviewed with me. They interviewed me and we talked pricing, and they proposed a number that was much, much, much higher than that. Right? Too much higher than that, in my opinion. And I kind of explained to him, I said, look, people will be able to tell how much. I asked him, I said, have you done anything substantial to the house since you listed it in 2019? They said, no, nothing substantial, nothing at all. Okay. So I was like, okay, so then really the number that you did not sell it for in 2019 and the number you want to list it for now is all appreciation, right? And they said, yeah. And I said, that number can be discovered. It can be determined. A savvy agent, a savvy buyer can go, okay, from 2019 to 2026 or 25, this was last year, there was this much appreciation in the market in Oregon City, in this price point. Long story short, Joe, we listed at their number because they ultimately wanted to do that. We were in negotiations with a buyer who ran it, I believe, through AI, like Chat GPT. And they, in their counter, and the deal didn't stick. They said, this is the highest we're going to pay because we know that appreciation from 2019, when they tried to sell it last to now, is no more than X in this market. So, there is truth to what you're saying. I mean, the those details do matter. They do matter. There was an interesting component because there was a lot of chattering back and forth about what the house sold for last and how that affects the value. And I liked this comment by Jenny Rietstein, I think is how you say it. She said, I always go back with what if they paid zero for the house? What would you think it's worth then? In a nice way, and then explain why it doesn't matter what they paid or didn't. And that's talking about people who are seeing on these search sites like Zillow what it transferred for at some prior sale.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
It's what if you inherit a house?
Comment. That was a good comment.
It doesn't matter what you paid, what you have into it. None of where you're moving to, and the cost of living is higher there. None of that matters. The buyers want opposite of what the sellers want. They want the biggest and best house, remodeled house for the lowest price.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they want. The
Yeah.
seller wants the most they can get, sell quickly, no repairs, no credits, a free rent back, all this other stuff. Somewhere in between is market value. And to dispel a lot of the myths to the sellers, nobody cares what you paid for your house. Nobody cares how much money you spent remodeling it. Nobody cares that you're moving to Seattle and the cost of living is higher there. That isn't relevant to real market value. What matters is, what is your house worth in today's market, given the competition for what people can choose from? Where are you? And that's what anyone cares about. And so, yeah, history doesn't always make sense if you have a free house or there's no history. But those that have long history, it's going to be fully transparent to everyone. And I mean, look, if you're a buyer and you see that something was on the market last year for 9 months and then they took it off in November and went back on the market in March, and now they're at $95,000 more than where they left off, and they haven't done anything to it. I mean, I already know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get the same house that it was last year at a lower price. So their price is really wrong. I already know that. And the buyers do too. They're not dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think we got it. We got to it all.
I think so.
Good show. Good to be back on. Thank you to our audience for listening. Yeah, that would be a wrap. Get over to the Street of Dreams. Keep your head down, keep working. It's tough out there, but that will change. There will come a day that changes, and we'll be thrilled. We'll be thrilled.
Yeah.
And it'll be good, and there'll be a lot less of us in the business because that's just a reality of what's going on.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Make it great. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Portland Real Estate Podcast, Oregon and Washington's #1 show for cutting-edge real estate discussions. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to the members of Masters in Real Estate, a private and exclusive Facebook group, and the #1 source for all real estate topics. Thanks for being there, gang. I love you. Finally, I want to thank our faithful listeners. Without an audience, we're just two guys talking to each other. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so the new episodes automatically come to you. Make it great.